Okay, I'm wrapping up the restoration of this 65 Mustang. The last thing that does not work is the horn. So let's go through what the problem could be. I see we've got a driver's side horn and a passenger side horn. It's got two wires coming in, and then it's got one wire that comes over here to the passenger side. There's one wire. To verify that the horns work themselves, I can take 12 volts from the battery and touch this terminal. If this horn comes on, that one's good. If I put 12 volts to this one, it should make both horns come on if this little harness is connected. And now if I disconnect that and I put 12 volts on there, then only this horn will sound. But on the inside of this core support, we've got a dark blue wire and a dark blue with a yellow stripe. So the one that feeds the passenger side horn is blue with the yellow stripe. So I've got this blue wire that goes to this connector here that goes to the firewall. So I'm going to take that connection off and I'm going to make sure it's clean and put some dielectric grease in there maybe when I put it back together. On the interior side, what we're going to look at is this little harness. It's going to be behind the park brake handle under the dash. This yellow wire is sending 12 volts to the horn contact. So it's taking that 12 volts from the light switch and sending it through the yellow wire up the column to the contact behind this horn button. So I can verify that I have 12 volts here. When the key is off, there should be 12 volts at that yellow wire. You'll just pull this harness apart, make sure it's nice and clean, put your voltmeter on there and see if you have 12 volts. If you do, put it back together. And next step is to diagnose what's behind the horn button. So to get this off, you turn it counterclockwise about 15 degrees and you see these slots. That's what is retaining the horn button on there. It's got that nylon lock ring. Now I've already taken this off so I can do it by hand on the video, but to get this off, you're going to take that nut off. I'll just use an impact to get that off. And then you'll have to use a wheel puller to get the steering wheel off. I just picked one up at my local O'Reilly's Performance Tool W80651. It's like $20. So basically, let me put this on here and I'll show you how it works. So basically your two bolts are going to thread into the steering wheel, and then this bolt in the middle, whenever you tighten it down, it's going to pull these two bolts and the wheel with it away from the column. I'd be really surprised if your wheel just came off without having to have a tool. So now I can pull the wheel off, and it's got a spring that's going to keep tension on the wheel. So now you see here's my horn contact. So whenever you push down on that horn button, it's pushing a metal plate back. So it should basically bridge this wire to this one. And we know the yellow one is the one that's supposed to have 12 volts coming from the light switch. So I should have 12 volts here. Now the problem with this was this pin was actually broken. So it's just a little soft metal pin that was kind of like a rivet on the end of it. And the end of this was supposed to be fastened to, there's a ring terminal on the end of the yellow wire, but it had broken off. So this was just floating down here in the bottom somewhere, and this 12 volt wire was just hanging out in there Fortunately, it wasn't arcing out against something and causing sparks and shorting, but it very well could have been. So my quick fix for this, because they don't have my local store didn't have the turn signal plate and horn contact plate, all this stuff, they don't have that in inventory, so you'd have to order that online. And let's pretend that I've got to get the car inspected today, state inspection, so the horn has to work. So my fix was to remove these 3 Phillips off of the retaining plate and pull that little metal plate out of there. And then this nylon plastic will kind of fold up, and you'll want to disconnect the battery when you do this. So if you have 12 volts right here, while you're fooling with it, you don't want it arcing out against the steering column or something. But I just found a machine screw that was roughly the same diameter as that pin, and fortunately the spring was still down in here, so I didn't have to fish for a new one. But I just put the ring terminal of the yellow wire back behind this plastic housing and threaded the machine screw through it. So whenever I push down, it moves that yellow wire. You can see they're connected, just like the blue one that goes to the horn. When I push down on it, you see they're connected. So now what happens is, when I touch these two together, let's pretend that the steering wheel is on here. You push the horn plate moves back and makes contact between these two. So now the horn works again. So this was the fix for this car. It doesn't mean it's going to be that for your car. I'm going to go ahead and put the wheel back together, and this car is ready for an inspection.